Hari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedānta Vaman Gosvāmi Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudev Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Vaman Gosvāmi Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Swami Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosvāmi Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmi Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gorakṣara Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jīva Gopāla-campūḥ Raghunath Shāra Gosvāmi Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Śrī Dāmodardarāṣṭakam Ramanandari Śrī Gopāla-campūḥ Vrinda Ki Jai. Nāma-chay Śrīla Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Deepavali Maha Mahotsav Ki Jai. Shri Dāma-bandhana Lila Ki Jai. Shri Yashoda Damodar Ki Jai. Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. Shri Jīva Gosvāmipāda Ki Jai. Śrī Gopāla-campūḥ Ki Jai. Shri Madhukanta Snigdha Kanta Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Raseshwari Mataji. So, today is an extra special juicy reading. It will be an extra special juicy reading from the appendix of this Dāmodardarāṣṭakam. I think it's a little long, anyhow, but it's really, really delightful. So, oh, and something, this has always been happening in our readings, that without any planning or anything, we always seem to read things on the right day, like just to start automatically. Like we started Ras Panchadhyay right during Kartik time. No, Radhashtami time. That's actually the day we started without any planning. And then there's been a lot of things like that. We read about Kaliya Lila on, what was it called? Navami or something like that. I forgot what the day was called. No, that's not what it was called. But anyways, it was on the perfect day to read that pastime. And yeah, it just happens over and over again like that. So, sorry, the reason I'm mentioning that is because today is Deepavali here. And it was on this day that Dāma-bandhana Lila took place. So we're reading about it on the day. All right, so let me share my screen. One second, where is it? Here. Okay. Let me just move this over here. I have too many things open. There. All right. Okay, Dāma-bandhana-nibandhanam. This is an appendix to Śrī Dāmodardarāṣṭakam. Dāma-bandhana-nibandhanam means the determination to bind Śrī Kṛṣṇa with rope. And Yamala-arjuna-mocanam means the deliverance of the twin Arjuna trees. From chapter 8 of Śrī Gopāla-campūḥ, pūrva, by Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmipāda. Let me just check the mic is actually, yeah, okay, good. Editor's note. Every morning before Śrī Kṛṣṇa takes the cows out to graze, an assembly of Vrajvasis gather together at Śrī Nanda Baba's palace, for the pleasure of Śrī Nanda Baba and his 4 brothers, as well as for Śrī Kṛṣṇa, Śrī Balaram, and the other Vrajvasis. Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta narrate Krishna's pastimes. What these twin brothers narrated one day is about to be described. The next morning, in that assembly, when all the Gopas who were part of the Vaishya community had gracefully taken their seats, Shri Snigdhakanta began. The month of Kartik was nearing conclusion. Early one morning, Shri Yashoda gladly beheld her sleeping little Gopal, whose eyes, now closed, resembled 2 blue lotus flowers. Mother Yashoda contentedly gazed upon her child and began to gently and lovingly stroke him with her hands, which are as soft as fresh budding leaves. When she noted with relief that he was again in deep sleep, she slowly and silently left his bedside. She entered the courtyard on her own, tied her cloth tightly around her, and started churning some yogurt to use in her home. Today, on the affectionate and insistent invitation of Sri Nanda Maharaja's elder brother Sri Upananda, Sri Rohini Devi, accompanied by her son Baladev, mounted a magnificent chariot and went to his home. The maidservants were also coming and going while performing their different services. There was a lot to do because the month of Margashirsha, the topmost month of the year, was approaching, and the annual festival of Indra Puja, which is observed by the people in general, and which has long been celebrated in traditional culture, was at hand. When all the maidservants were thus engaged in their respective tasks, the Queen of Vraj, Sri Yashoda, personally set to churning the yogurt with great care. To encourage her son's pleasant slumber, she sang sweetly as she turned. Absorbed in thoughts of Śrī Kṛṣṇa, with her mind and her soul fully offered to him, she sang detailed descriptions of his childhood pastimes as her eyes admired his lovely face. Srila Shukadeva Goswami has mentioned this in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.2. One day, when all the maidservants were engaged in various tasks, Shri Yashoda, the wife of Sri Nanda, personally began to churn yogurt. At that time, songs about Śrī Kṛṣṇa's childhood pastimes came to her mind, and she began to sing them. As dark-complexioned Vrajeshwari Shri Yashoda churned, her arms repeatedly moved back and forth. A series of girdles embellished with jewels encircled her cloth, and beautiful bangles adorned her arms. Her ornaments sounded in time with the vigorous movements of her waist and arms. Meanwhile, her son drowsily opened his eyes a little. As Sri Vrajeshwari beheld the charm of his lotus face, she churned with greater intensity and sang. Oh God, how do we sing this? Let me see. I don't know. Let me just. Gokulapati kulatilakam Krita sukrita vraja rachita sukha vraja nayananandi samiha. O my darling son, you are the crest ornament of the dynasty of Gokulapati Sri Nanda Maharaj. The Vrajvasis must have performed greatly pious acts to witness you bringing joy to their hearts. Your activities delight the eyes of all. Anandodbhava Janma Mahotsava Nandita Gopa Samaja O Putani Kamriti Nava Mangala Kriti Valita Valayita Gokula Raja. You rouse the joy of the cowherd community by the blissful festival of your birth. And by the recent and auspicious act of killing Putana, you have spread the glory of your father, the king of Gokul, far and wide. Dharya Nivartana Shakata Vivarta. No, sorry, let me try again. Dharya Nivartana Shakata Vivana Anubhavena Parita Anubhavena Parita Satrina Vartaka Vayuni Vartaka Parameshena Nita. After eliminating Shakatasura, who made everyone lose all composure, you are blessed by the auspicious rituals of the Brahmins. Later, Sri Nanda's worshipful deity, Parameshwar, he returned you to us after destroying Trinavarta along with his storm. I want to do ability. Let me think. Whatever. Madhura Prangana Virachitaringana Jala Janayana Supunya Nana Kelisho Nritya Kalalisho Tarshitavara Naipunya. O lotus-eyed boy of incomparable piety, you used to crawl about on your tiny hands and knees in our charming courtyard. You have shown great expertise in playing various games and demonstrating many varieties of dance. Tarnakabaladi Shabalita Tanvadi Valayita Ula Jani Vahe Kautuka Kalahe Prabalita Mithya Lobha. When you used to grab the tails of the calves, they would run away, dragging you along. At those times, your gorgeous form was pulled through the dust and cow dung, which gave you an even more enchanting splendor. While playfully quarreling with the elderly gopis, you would frivolously increase everyone's confusion through your antics. Mithya, that means by your lying, right? No. It says mithya. Mithya? Yeah, mithya lobha. Prabalita mithya lobha. So would that be like through your lying also? Through your like. Mithya means like false greed, false desire. Huh. Anyways. Okay. Mataram Anusukamudvitano Pratatam Satatam Krishna Drutamurari Kuru Tano Vridhaim Purukela Bali Krita Trishna. O Krishna, since I am your mother, forever continue to expand my already boundless joy. Quickly grow healthy and strong, and fulfill our desire by delighting our eyes with your many lively pastimes. Tribhuvana darshana avismayamarshana Nishchita Vaishnava Maya Hari Vari Vasya Sukadatamasya Vigata Jara no. Hari Vari Vasya Sukadatamasya Vigata Jara Marakaya. At first, you caused bewilderment by displaying the three worlds within your mouth. Later, however, it was understood that by doing so, you confirmed the existence of Lord Vishnu's spiritual illusory potency, Vaishnavi Maya. There's a footnote here. It says, even when Sri Yashoda saw the universe within Krishna's mouth, she did not regard with awe and respect. Instead, as is shown here, she simply attributed everything to the Lord's spiritual potency, which she considered had been invoked by her and Nanda Maharaja's sincere worship. O Krishna, may your body be free from aging and death, and may you become the bestower of bliss by serving Sri Hari. Then Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the ocean of eternal charm, woke up and climbed down from the bed, crying. Hari Bol Prajumna Prabhu and Mantramurti Mataji. So he climbed down from the bed, crying. As he stretched his body, he took long breaths and rubbed his sleepy eyes. Now fully awake, he cried, "Ma, ma!" Hearing the sound of the churning rod, Śrī Gopāla tottered over to his mother. Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the best of the blessing of beauty, stopped the rod from churning. Śrī Yashoda's motherly affection for Śrī Kṛṣṇa expanded within her heart, completely filling it with the desire to cradle him, and in her mood there was a trace of fear and grief. As her motherly affection surged, she fed her young child the milk that spontaneously poured from her breasts in a stream. Mother Yashoda is gracious and splendorous like the rainy season. Her breasts began to shower streams of milk that resembled a continuous downpour, and Śrī Kṛṣṇa, like a chatak bird, fittingly and gleefully began to drink that downpour. Whoa. It's like a fountain. With great eagerness, Śrī Kṛṣṇa drank the milk that With great eagerness, Śrī Kṛṣṇa drank the milk of that blessed breast. He had only half satisfied his hunger when Mother Yashoda noticed that the milk in the next room was boiling over. Although her child was eager for her breast milk, she immediately put him down, although it was apparently unwise for her to do so, and hastened inside to save the milk. She did not carry him as she ran, fearing that he might fall. Madhukanta interrupted. Snigdhakanta, what are you saying, my brother? That is illogical. How could it be that Śrī Yashoda left her starving baby to go elsewhere? She is the faultless ideal among all loving mothers within this universe. Snigdhakanta laughed and said, My dear brother, just wait and listen to me attentively. In reality, her leaving her child to save the milk is also a lovely pastime of motherly affection. Madhukanta was skeptical. How? He asked. Snigdhakanta replied. In the absence of Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the residents of Vraj see that their bodies, homes, and other possessions are more or less waning. From the day he was born, his parents, Śrī Nanda and Śrī Yashoda, considered that all those residents of Vraj, as well as all the items used to serve Śrī Kṛṣṇa, have abundant mamata for him. Even Sri Brahma confirms this in his prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.35, where he says, O Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the residents of Vraj have completely offered their homes, their wealth, their relatives, their beloveds, their soul, their bodies, their children, their lives, and their minds, everything at your feet. How in all fairness could you not award them a result superior to what you awarded Putana and other demons? What can be said of the love that Śrī Kṛṣṇa's own mother and father have for him? When Sri Brahma himself has glorified the love So what can be said of the love that Śrī Kṛṣṇa and his own mother and father have for him when Śrī Brahma himself has glorified the love of all the Vrajvasis? All of the Vrajvasis' rich milk and yogurt, as well as their bodies, homes, and other possessions, are exclusively meant for the service of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. Thus, while serving Śrī Kṛṣṇa, it is befitting to have more mamata, or attachment, for the objects used to serve Śrī Kṛṣṇa than for Śrī Kṛṣṇa himself. So the Vrajvasis, they have more mamata for the objects used in Krishna's service than for Krishna himself. Thus, it is specifically understood that mother's intention in leaving Krishna to save the milk was most exalted. This has been sanctioned in Advocate Bhakti. The import is that it is appropriate for Mother Yashoda to have more attachment for the objects that are dear to Śrī Kṛṣṇa than for Śrī Kṛṣṇa himself. Indeed, this is the eternal nature of an affectionate mother. Having concluded this, it is only fitting that Śrī Yashoda first attends to those objects used in the service of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. At such times, she tolerates many personal inconveniences and remains unaware of her bodily household duties. With the loving mood born of her permanent emotion, of her sthāyi bhav, that this is my son, she is always aware of Śrī Kṛṣṇa's needs more than her own bodily or household needs. She is always conscious of his complete dependence on her, and her perpetual attitude is, Śrī Kṛṣṇa's necessities are my necessities, and fulfilling them is my sole obligation. Only the residents of Vraj know what is involved in expressing this type of affection. Even when they chastise Śrī Kṛṣṇa and punish him, he knows that they are just taking care of him. This is because a parent's chastisement is considered part of loving and raising their children. There is no limit to what I can say about the boundless expression of their parental affection. And if the residents of Vraj feel angry with Krishna out of their affection for him, being the object of their extreme mamata, he is even prepared to undergo bondage. See, even fire in the form of lightning, sometimes in dense rain clouds. There's a footnote here. Editor's footnote. Affection is part of the permanent emotion, the sthāyi bhav of Vatsalya ras, and anger is a transitory emotion, the sanchari bhav of that ras. The superior's mood of Vatsalya ras is nourished by the transitory emotion of anger, and it is part of their affection. Just as rain clouds become charming when lightning appears in them, sometimes anger appears in those with Vatsalya ras, making their mood more charming. Actually, without anger, the mood of parenthood would not be complete. The evidence for the above statement is that both Mother Yashoda and her son benefit each other by their mutual love. Listen as I describe their affectionate dealings. When Mother Yashoda went to take the milk off the stove for the pleasure of her son, she first comforted him, saying, "My darling boy, may all your problems and difficulties come to me. Watch this pot of yogurt for just a minute while I check on the boiling milk. I will return quickly." Ah, just as swiftly as she put her son aside and left that turning place, she returned. Even in that time, milk poured from her breasts out of deep motherly affection, wetting her blouse. It poured so much that it made the floor slippery. Still, Śrī Kṛṣṇa's wishes had been checked, and he was most perturbed. In anger, he bit his trembling reddish lips and burst into tears. Then, picking up a small grinding stone which was lying nearby, he broke the pot of half-churned yogurt. However, he did not even get the slightest bit of butter from it. Poets have described his beauty at that time. Little Krishna's white teeth, a series of moons, were enveloped by the reddish hue reflecting from his lips. His two eyes, resembling restless partridges, were full of tears, and his lotus hands shone as they vigorously sloshed yogurt here and there. I like that word, sloshed. In this way, when the half-churned yogurt from the pot covered the entire floor, another type of festival manifested. Just then, his eyes caught sight of a pot of fresh butter hanging from the ceiling in the adjoining room. He ran to the door, slid the latch aside, and pushed it open. Then, moving the door stopper back into place, he slipped into the room and closed the door behind him. He used a nearby cot as a step, lowered the pot of butter, and started to eat it. Thereafter, he took the remaining butter and secretly sneaked out through the window of that room. Meanwhile, Mother Yashoda had stopped the milk from boiling over into the fire. The milk cooled down to a simmer within seconds, and she took it off the stove. She dashed back to where she had left her son, only to find that he was gone. However, seeing evidence of her son's activities, she laughed in mixed anger and amusement. At first, out of suspicion, she became perturbed. But then Yogamaya manifested an aerial voice, which gave her knowledge and made her laugh. The aerial voice said, "Feeling hungry." So how do we do an aerial voice? Nice. "Feeling hungry and thirsty, your little bumblebee made a hole in the bud of a lotus flower that had no pollen. When he saw that it was merely water that began dripping from that flower, he became disappointed and went to another lotus flower, where he has found a big supply of honey. The import is that in order to get fresh butter, your son performed all these deeds. He first broke the churning pot, but did not find butter there. He then found it hanging in the next room. You have displayed your intelligence by deciding to leave your baby and go cool down the milk. But if you calm the anger of your child, you will receive even more praise." Upon hearing the voice, Mother Yashoda laughed and followed the thief's conspicuous yogurt footprints to the next room. She managed to force the doors open. Then she stepped inside, only to behold her son's other matchless mischief. Tracing his path of escape, she finally spotted him, his eyes restless with fear. He was thinking, "I have just stolen fur. If my mother sees me here, how will I face her?" His eyes moved about so frantically that they seemed to be on the verge of leaping into his ears. In other words, his eyes and his ears were watching out for his mother. Mother Yashoda saw him sitting restless-eyed atop the grinding mortar that he had overturned with all his strength, feeding butter to the monkeys. Astonished by this, she smiled softly. She quietly crept up behind her guilty son. It is said that a wealthy person has 2 eyes, but a thief has 100. That is to say, a wealthy person has only 2 eyes to look after his treasures, but a thief has 100 to spot that person's wealth and steal it. Although a person may be extremely careful to protect his wealth, it is not inaccessible to a thief. By nature, monkeys are proud of exhibiting their strength, but today their bellies were fully satisfied, so when they saw Mother Yashoda advancing, holding a stick covered with cloth, they immediately scampered up the nearby trees. This alerted Krishna to what was happening, and he also fled. Seeing her son fleeing, Mother Yashoda broke into a run and began to chase him. A shower of flowers fell from her braid. "Oh, king of thieves," she loudly called. "Where are you going? Stop! Stop!" Hearing this, Śrī Kṛṣṇa uttered a faint cry. A smile appeared on his face, enhancing his beauty. Mother Yashoda ran quickly after him. Although she came close, she could not catch him. It was as if 2 clouds, one big and one small, were being chased by the wind from west to east across the sky, the larger cloud unable to catch up with the smaller one. Similarly, this mother could not catch her son. There's a footnote here. Here, Śrī Yashoda and Śrī Kṛṣṇa are appropriately compared to clouds because both of their complexions are dark, like rain clouds. Little Krishna was confident that his mother would never pursue him beyond the main gate, for she would never, for she would then be seen running in public. Therefore, he intentionally ran in that direction. Mother Yashoda knew that at that time of day, no one would be outside the gate, so she just kept chasing him. As long as Krishna ran without looking back, his mother was unable to catch him. But as soon as he turned his head back in fear, she caught him by his hand. He frantically moved his eyes about as if trying to continue running away. He began crying in an attempt to reduce Mother Yashoda's anger. And out of impudence, he started trembling artificially. But he could not give up his childish pranks. Whenever she forcefully held his face so that she could take Whenever she forcefully held his face so that she could look him in the eye, Śrī Kṛṣṇa turned his face in such a way as to wipe the oily gloss of butter from his mouth and make it look dry. Threatening him, Mother Yashoda said, "Oh, Krishna, you have given me so much trouble. Before you steal from your home, first look at this stick in my hand." When she saw her lotus-eyed son's terror upon hearing these words, Śrī Rajeshwari tossed the stick aside. "Don't beat me, mother," Krishna beseeched her. The queen of Braj scorned him. "But you are a thief, a thief." Laughing to herself, she suddenly and forcefully instigated a quarrel with him. "Ah, you are the king of thieves, Chor," Krishna protested. "No, mother, Chor took birth in your dynasty, not in mine." And there's a footnote here. In the dynasty of Śrī Yashoda's father, there was a Gopa named Chor. The literal meaning of Chor is thief. Thus, Śrī Kṛṣṇa denounced Śrī Yashoda's dynasty, considering himself to belong exclusively to his father's dynasty. So, Chor took birth in your dynasty, not mine. Why would we have a Chor, a thief, in our home? In this way, Mother Yashoda and her butter-stealing son argued with each other. "Oh, really? Well, who broke the pot of yogurt?" she again inquired. Krishna replied, "The Supreme Lord, he was punishing you." But, she continued, "who fed butter to the monkeys? He who created them?" "No," she exclaimed, "I suspect that you always feast with great relish on the fresh butter we prepare for use in religious sacrifices." Mother Yashoda scolded her son as she would a thief, but finally her heart softened. She laughed with anger and said, "Just admit you're a thief. Give up your arrogance." Thus pressed by his mother, Śrī Kṛṣṇa burst into tears. "Look, Ma," "Look, Ma," he sobbed. "When you anxiously rushed to save the milk, your ankle bell struck the pot of yogurt and it broke. How is this my fault?" And the monkeys, he continued. No, that's too goofy. "And the monkeys," he continued, "were inspired by the Supreme Lord to sneak into the house to steal. When they began taking the butter, I caught them. What did I do wrong?" And then, he retorted, "the stick in your hand frightened me, so even though I am completely innocent, I fled like a thief. You saw I was so afraid, but still you mercilessly chased me, all for no reason." Mother Yashoda spoke as if lamenting. "Oh, you are the king of those skilled in argument," she said. "You are the best of thieves. Although you are the son of Śrī Rajaraj, the most noble of men, your nature has become like a monkey's, because you are so fond of them." When fearful Śrī Kṛṣṇa heard this, he pointed to the forest and said, "If I am a monkey, then I will live in the forest," which slightly frightened his mother. Who knows, she thought, this arrogant boy could easily put his threat into action. To keep him from running into the forest, I must tie him up. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to single-handedly manage my household duties and this child. Turning to Krishna, she openly said, "You thief, you restless boy, you who bewilder one and all by the charm of your flickering eyes, why don't you simply accept my prohibitions? Look, I will tie you up and then quickly return to the house. If you have any strength left in you, if you have any strength left, you can show it to me by trying to steal something else." As she started to bind him, his eyes became moist, and in fury, he began to loudly cry out, "Oh, Mother Rohini!" He shrieked, "Where have you gone with my big brother? Because you are not here today, this mother is tying me up. Come quickly!" Since Sri Rohini was far away, she could not hear his cries. But the ladies from neighboring homes who had previously complained about Krishna and who had chastised him did hear his cries. They informed each other of the fun and assembled there. As if taunting her, they reminded Sri Yashoda of their complaints. "Has this thief done something mischievous in your home also?" they laughed. Mother Yashoda, however, was teaching her son a lesson, so she paid no heed to their remarks. Snatching up a silk ribbon that had fallen from her braid, she immediately began binding her son's waist to a grinding mortar lying in the courtyard, with the same persistence it takes to bind the neck of a calf. But that silk ribbon, why can't I say ribbon? But that silk ribbon was 2 fingers too short. One second, I have to clear my throat again. She took another ribbon from her hair and joined it to the first one, but still the same problem confronted her. Amazed, she tried to bind Krishna's waist with several churning ropes that the gopis had handed her, but still Rajeshwari could not make up that gap of 2 fingers. From a distance, a cloud that is actually touching the peak of a mountain may be mistakenly perceived as being quite far beyond it. In a similar sense, although the full length of rope was actually touching Śrī Kṛṣṇa, it could not bind his apparently tiny waist. The rope was always 2 fingers too short. There's a footnote here. Just as the cloud may appear to be far beyond the mountain's peak when seen from a distance, it appeared to everyone present there that there is so much rope being used to bind Śrī Kṛṣṇa that it could not possibly have all been touching his waist. However, just as the cloud is actually touching the mountain, the full length of rope was actually touching Śrī Kṛṣṇa's waist. But no length of rope could equal the actual circumference of his waist, because in truth, it is unlimited. Observing this, the ladies in Vraj laughed and remarked, "Oh, Rajeshwari, we already told you that this boy surely has some extraordinary illusory potency. On account of it, he even surpasses Kapalik, the foremost among thieves." That's cool. There was a famous thief, Kapalak. "He seems to be satisfied simply by eating stolen goods, or by such acts he delights both the donors and the enjoyers of them. He is gradually gaining quite a reputation as one who steals others' possessions." Mother Yashoda responded, "What does this recently born child know about being a thief? He does not know good from bad, but it seems that you are the ones who know some evil trickery. Although you actually favor him, externally you behave in a contrary way." At this, the ladies laughed. "Oh, respected Sri Yashoda," they said, "we take an oath at your feet that we have nothing to do with these astonishing powers." Finally, Sri Yashoda reasoned. As Sri Gargacharya said, Surely some potency of Sri Bhagavan surrounds my son. This infant boy cannot know what he is doing. Just to put an end to this bewilderment, Sri Yashoda repeatedly called for more and more turning ropes from the homes of the gopis. Despite her persistence in her endeavor to bind her son, she could not find any way to accomplish the seemingly impossible task. Instead, Sri Yashoda, the queen of Vraj, dripped with perspiration, and curls of hair fell over her face again and again. Finally, she became completely exhausted. As long as Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who is born in the Yadu dynasty, there's a footnote here, it says that Srila Jiva Goswami has employed a simile by stating Śrī Kṛṣṇa was born in the Yadu dynasty. Just as Yadu Maharaj stubbornly refused to accept the orders of his father, Yayati Maharaj, similarly, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who was born in the same Yadu dynasty, stubbornly refused to be bound by his mother. Okay. So as long as Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who was born in the Yadu dynasty, stubbornly refused to be bound, Mother Yashoda's persistent efforts were fruitless, just as one whose fate is grasped by an unfavorable star is always unsuccessful in his endeavors. Finally, Śrī Kṛṣṇa's heart was touched by the sight of his mother being so overwhelmed, and almost immediately she successfully bound him with the 2 ribbons she had initially used from her hair. It was clear to all persons present that it was only these 2 ribbons that bound Śrī Kṛṣṇa. The other ropes she had used to tie him simply lay there. It was actually Śrī Kṛṣṇa's his maidservant, his Yogamaya potency, who had understood his mind and accomplished the task of binding him. This made Mother Yashoda feel that all those astonishing activities of Śrī Kṛṣṇa were an illusion. When that rope was finally tied tightly around Śrī Kṛṣṇa's waist, Mother Yashoda knotted it to another long rope, which she had then tied around the middle of the grinding mortar. She had taught her son Krishna she had taught her son Krishna a lesson by tying him up, and thus showed him how unmoved she could be by his stubbornness. To protect him, she seated the other little boys around him, and happily went inside with the giggling gopis to complete her household chores. Within a moment of the Vraj gopis' departure, Śrī Kṛṣṇa manifested his pastime of crying. But he soon cheered up at the thought of pulling the grinding mortar around. He was tied up, but because he was surrounded by other little boys, he stimulated their desire for adventure. As he laughed and played with them, he slowly began to tug at the grinding mortar. The gopis who had gleefully bought ropes from their homes to bind Śrī Kṛṣṇa were now in Nanda Bhavan with Śrī Yashoda. This meant that their homes were empty. Seizing that excellent opportunity, Śrī Kṛṣṇa directed his friends to steal the fresh butter hanging from the ceilings of their deserted homes and then eat it. Because Śrī Kṛṣṇa found pulling the grinding mortar so entertaining, he never even wanted to free himself by his own hands, nor by the hands of his friends. Just then, his eyes fell on the twin Arjuna trees, which stood facing the main gate and which swayed as if dancing. They swayed as if dancing whenever there was a strong wind. As Śrī Kṛṣṇa pulled the mortar along, he eventually crawled towards the middle of the 2 trees. One second. At this point, Snigdha-kanta, who had been loudly narrating all this with great excitement, suddenly realized. Tell them that Sri Hari is the cause of the 2 trees falling. I will be glorifying his Aishwarya, or his opulence. That would not be at all appropriate in this assembly of Vrajvasis who are absorbed in Sri Hari's madhurya, or his sweetness. I will conceal this fact and just tell them another reason why the trees fell. One second. Okay. He continued. Just as Śrī Kṛṣṇa came between the trees, he became filled with eagerness to proceed farther. He became filled with eagerness to proceed further and quickly crawled between them. The passage between the trees was narrow, and as he crawled away, the mortar became stuck. Śrī Kṛṣṇa tugged at the mortar with the conscious intention of breaking the rope that had bound him to it. But instead, two trees made a crackling sound as they were uprooted and came crashing to the ground, falling in opposite directions. The sound was so tumultuous that it made the Vrajvasis feel more disoriented than deaf people, and it made their minds restless. Although Śrī Kṛṣṇa had uprooted the twin Arjuna trees, which were more powerful than thunderbolts, amazingly, he was still unable to break the rope that embodied his mother's intense attachment and relentless determination, born of Vatsalya Prema. In this regard, poets praise Śrī Kṛṣṇa as follows. Shamanga Dukini Dhanidharam Ringati Rangapradam Karshachashvar Udhukalam Karakarar Tara Prakara Prantam Vispurja Marjana Daya Katarjitat Kotukat Paryavrita Nirikshana Rajavadhu Lalyasya Baladuve. Sorry, I didn't get the meter for that right. I adore the childhood mood, the love of Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who is nurtured by the ladies of Vraj. He is gloriously situated in his childhood mood, in which his limbs are adorned by his tinkling ankle bell. He bestows the greatest bliss as he crawls on his knees and repeatedly pulls at the grinding mortar, which clatters as he drags along. Excited by the thunderous crackling of the two falling Arjuna trees, he looks all around with restless eyes. Terrified by that thunderous sound, all the inhabitants of Gokul fainted and are unconscious on Danda. That's 24 minutes. Only the children who had gathered around Śrī Kṛṣṇa did not faint. Being immersed in the utmost sweetness of his pastimes, they, like the figures in a painting, remain unaffected by fear. From a distance, Śrī Vajraraja and other cowherd men heard the tumultuous and terrifying sound. Calamity, they all rushed to the spot, speculating to each other along the way about what had happened. When they had reached the spot, they became overcome with fear and "Oh, what could have uprooted these two trees?" they all cried. "There is no wind or rain, nor was there any lightning, nor attacked them. Who has uprooted them?" Some remarked, "This is such a disaster, yet no one is here but us." "Well," reasoned another, "that is probably because the ultra sound of the crashing trees knocked everyone in Vraj unconscious." Just then they noticed their little Gopal near the trees, a playful smile beautifying his face as he tugs the grinding mortar, freely showering the bliss of his pastimes upon all. "What happens?" they asked as they surrounded him, discussing the cause of the disaster. Seeing his father approaching from behind, little Mukunda began to cry. He went from smiling in a playful mood to because he saw his father. Although Śrī Maharaj was still bewildered, he beamed a smile to pacify his darling child and quickly untied him. Śrī Nanda Maharaj kissed the face of his son Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who spoke to Nanda while crying, and although he knew why Krishna had been bound, he repeatedly asked, "Oh, my son, where is the wicked person who forced you to this grinding mortar." Eventually, Krishna, who was devoted to his father, climbed into his lap. With his arms around his father's neck and his voice quivering, he slowly spoke into his ear. "Father, it was mother who bound me." When Śrī Kṛṣṇa had heard the deafening crash, she fainted. After regaining consciousness, she pitifully began to repent. Śrī Nanda Maharaj came to know this, and therefore he did not immediately question her, even in private. He did not even bother to ask the little children present. What could these little infants possibly know about? He pondered. But then the children spoke up. "Father, we saw everything ourselves. We clearly saw the sun trees. He saw that open space over there and wanted to play there. As he moved away from the trees, the grinding mortar became caught in between them. From an angle, he tugged at the grinding mortar. Immediately, the trees made a loud cracking sound, and came crashing to the ground. Two divine personalities adorned with armor, crowns, and earrings emerged from the trees. Their stout figures are as bright as fire. After circumambulating your Krishna and offering incenses, they said something to please him and then went off to the north. The Mahārāja and others who were completely absorbed in parental affection for Krishna discarded the boy's words, silly prattling. Others, however, were left doubtful. All the people of Braj came there in twos, and gradually a large crowd gathered. Decorating his chest with the sun, Śrī Vraj went with all of them to the Yamuna to finish his morning activities. He bathed in the river with his son up, and after dressing, he arranged for the Brahmins to chant the Swasti Vachan, specific mantras to invoke auspiciousness, in that very place. Afterwards, he donated great wealth to them. He then turned to his home, ready to take breakfast. Śrī Yashoda, the wife of Śrī Nanda Maharaj, felt so sad and embarrassed that she had bound Krishna that she refused to leave the inner chambers of the house. She could not eat with the gopis who had come to see her. So after they had all left, the respected Śrī Rohini, who was expert in reconciling all situations, directed the head kitchen maids, who were all held in high esteem, in serving the morning meal. Beckoning Śrī Vasudev's son, Balaram, and his own son, Kanaya to join him, Śrī Vraj ate with them in the midst of the endearing and sweet tumults they had made. He then rested for nearly an hour with two brothers, who are the personification of supreme bliss. Sorry, one second. Soon it was evening, the charming time when the cows returned from the fields. Having rested well, he felt happy and content. After coming to the Goshala, he directed the cowherds in milking the cows and caring for them. Since Śrī Kṛṣṇa and Balaram were quite young, they still needed their mother's breast milk, and cow's milk is the best representative of breast milk. Śrī Vraj first asked for some excellent white rock candy to be brought from the house. After distributing it to them and the other little boys like Subal, Nanda Baba began squashing cow's milk from the cow's udders directly into the mouth. Then, as they ate the cow shed, he taught them how to make leaf cups and how to write letters on leaves. After some time, he returned home, and in a blissful gathering, he took his evening meal with the two boys. The wise elderly gopis, who belonged to their respective dynasties like jewels or goddesses of wealth, always desired Śrī Vrajaraja's happiness. Therefore, after he had finished his meal, they approached him along with Śrī Rohini and said, "O King, Krishna's mother has not eaten anything all. She's not eaten anything all day, nor has she spoken with anyone. Seeing her condition, All the maids and other gopis have also been sitting silently, and they also have not eaten anything. Śrī Vrajraj was both sorry and amused. What can I do? He asked. Yourself can see the detrimental effect of submitting to her anger. At this, tears began streaming down the gopis' faces, and they sobbed. Oh no, she is so soft, internally and externally. These beautiful words of yours, she will become even more aggrieved. Smiling, Śrī Vrajraj asked his son, My dear boy, do you want to go to your mother? Śrī Kṛṣṇa promptly responded, No, no, I will stay with you only. Giggling, the wife of Śrī Vrajraj's elder brother, Śrī Dāmodardarāṣṭakam, questioned him. If you are only ever with father, whose milk will you drink? I will drink warm squirts of cow's milk mixed with rock candy, Krishna replied. With whom will you play? Gopis asked. I will play with father and my brother too, he answered. Śrī Vrajraj then asked, Why don't you go to your brother's mother, Rohini? Tears welled up in Krishna's eyes, and he angrily said, She was not there for me when I needed her. After this, tearful-eyed Śrī spoke gently. My dear son, why are you so harsh? Your mother is in so much anguish. Krishna pretended not to hear her words, and with moist eyes, simply gazed at the face of his father. Upon the motioning of Śrī Rohini, Balaram roared and seized Krishna's hands to bring him to her. But he, out of Balaram's grip, ran behind his father's lap and tightly hugged him. While on the lap of Vrajraj, he stood up and draped his arms around his father. Krishna gazed into his eyes, which were now a released stream of tears, and absolutely captivated his father. One second, is it still? Says it's cut out. It looks like it's back. The sound is crackling. That's too bad. You can understand, but it's crackling. Okay. Śrī Vrajraj knew that really Krishna dearly loved his mother from the core of his heart. To unearth that inner love, he raised his hand and said, If you tell me to, I will beat your mother. Śrī Kṛṣṇa could not tolerate this and tightened his father's arm with both hands. This made Nanda Baba laugh. Because he had the inherent Vatsalya bhav of being a father, he compassionately thought of the condition of Mother Yashoda and said, Son, what will you do if you're just... In this statement, Śrī Nanda Mahārāja jokingly implied that he implied the word that means the opposite of lives. Śrī Kṛṣṇa had the nature of a child, and therefore he became overwhelmed with want of his mother. With tear-filled eyes, he said, Where is my mother? I am going to her. And this anxiety, he stumbled to Rohini's arms, and a din arose as everyone began to laugh. What's a din mean? Anyways, for some reason my dictionary is not open. Anyways, a din arose as everyone began to laugh. I want to see that. Din. Lots of unpleasant noise that continues for some time. Uproar. Okay, it means uproar. Huh. Interesting. Maybe I have to look that up. Anyways, so where's my mother? I'm going to her. And this anxiety, he stumbled in Rohini's arms, and a din arose as everyone began to. Meanwhile, Śrī Rohini, who bestows supreme joy upon all, entered into the house with teary-eyed Krishna, who joyously embraced his mother. She Śrī Yashoda let forth deep sighs that resembled the lowing of a cow. She rested her chin on her darling child's head and began to weep. Her crying, which was full of love, completely melted her heart. Upon seeing her condition, everyone there also began to weep. The elderly gopis told Śrī Yashoda in various ways. Gradually, her heart began to feel relief, and the charm of her face began to reappear. Then Śrī Yashoda, the daughter of Śrī Sumukha, fed her darling son her breast milk to his delight. To his great delight. After this, she took her meal and with the wife of Śrī Upananda and the other ladies who were well-wishers. As she ate, she kept Śrī Kṛṣṇa and his elder brother Śrī Balaram right beside her. Śrī Yashoda felt so utterly ashamed that for 3 days she did not wash the eyes of Śrī Vrajaraj. Finally, Śrī Gopāla, who always carries orders, personally brought her before him, pulling her with her upper cloth. Also, from that day onward, the ladies of Vraj jokingly and blissfully began calling Śrī Kṛṣṇa Damodar. Okay? This is our same enchanting blue boy, Śrī Shyam Manohar. Although Śrī repeatedly witnessed Śrī Kṛṣṇa's superhuman majesty, this majesty never even slightly affects her vatsa or her motherly affection for him. Which Skat is really able to praise her? Śrī Gosvāmī that what speak of others, Śrī Brahma, Śrī Shankar, and Śrī Lakshmi have failed to achieve even 100th of the satisfaction and happiness of what Śrī Bala-Kunda, who bestows liberation, Śrī Yashoda. In other words, from the perspective of bhakti, Śrī Brahma, Śrī Shankar, and Śrī Lakshmi have failed to achieve even a fraction of affection of Śrī Yashoda's bhakti. Śrī Śukadeva Goswami has thoroughly disclosed the splendorous fame of Śrī Yashoda, which reverberates like a drum throughout the 3 worlds. The Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-20. Other scriptures verify this. At this point, Śrī Balaram turned to his younger brother, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and excitedly remarked, "Do you remember when we used to live in Mahavan Gokul?" Śrī Kṛṣṇa smiled. Yes, we had so much fun sporting there. Snigdha then concluded the day's narration. O King of the Kurters, your divine son is so amazing. He was even able to make twin Arjuna trees his dedicated devotees. The Jīva Gosvāmī comments. As all the members of the assembly returned to their respective homes after seeing Śrī Damodar Lila, they felt as if they had directly witnessed that festive pastime. Okay, now we're nearly at the ends. The next day, while seated amidst that effulgent assembly, Śrī Vrajaraja asked, "My dear son Snigdha, these in Vraj that you mentioned used to grant to all of one's cherished desires. In that way, they were like demigods. Who were these trees in their previous births, and why did they come to Vraj? Moreover, when they gave up their lives as trees, what form did they take, and where did they go?" Snigdha replied, 2 trees were the sons of Śrī Shiva's friend, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the king of the Yakshas. Once they behaved horrendously to the best of rishis, Devarshi Śrī Narad. Consequently, he punished them to live as trees. This punishment was Śrī Narad's extreme favor upon them, because they achieved bhakti for Śrī Bhagavan. Whenever you descend to this world, they also come as trees in front of your home in Mahabharata. These trees later attained their ultimate destination and became the best of Śrī Bhagavan's devotees. However, at present, they are illustriously situated in the abode of Premi Bhaktas, where they reveal to others the results of performing bhakti to Sri Bhagavan. However, at present they are illustriously situated in the abode of Premi Bhaktas, where they reveal to others the results of performing bhakti to Sri Bhagavan. His curiosity aroused, Sri Rajaraja again inquired, "Tell me frankly, son, where are they at present?" At this moment, Snigdha bowed his head and became silent. Then glancing at Madhukanta from the corners of Sri Rajraj pressed Snigdha even further. "Why are you to speak?" With great respect, Snigdha replied, "O king, what more can we say? Your distinguished self can understand everything." Sri Rajraj beamed. "It is true that your words will merely repeat what your silence is trying to say. By your virtuous disposition, we have all understood your meaning. But still, we want you to satisfy us by telling it to us yourselves." Snigdha said, "The twin trees are the sons of Kubera, Nalakuvara, and Manigriva, received the supreme destination of residing in Vraj in exchange for their insolent feet at the lotus feet of Devarshi Narad, which are a shower of all types of bliss. Those two are none other than we, the two present before you." Hearing this with mixed feelings of curiosity and pleasure, Sri Rajaraja and all others present began gazing at their and happily embraced them as if meeting them for the first time. After hearing his brother to Sri Rajaraja's inquiry, Madhukanta took the opportunity to begin that day's narration. And wow, so beautiful. And I want to read something. This is an excerpt from Gurudev's biography of my Parama Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedānta Maharaj, his life and teachings. So my Guru. Once during the month of Kartik, Srila Guru Padma had brought his noble presents to Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math. One day, he was sitting in Bhajan Kutir, chanting Ham, absorbed in transcendental emotions. I had sat down nearby and was silently reading the chapter on Śrī Dāma-bandhana-nibandhanam from Śrī Gopāla-campūḥ. As I read, I became completely fascinated with Srila Jīva Gosvāmi's beautiful description of this pastime. Finally, unable to restrain myself, I ran over to Srila Gurudev and said, "Srila Jīva Gosvāmi was a Mahapurush, a most exalted personality, and an unrivaled philosopher. At the same time, he was a transcendental Rasik poet whose work is eloquent, touching, and descriptive. Although such a combination of vast erudition and poetic artistry is rarely found in this world, when we read his narration of Śrī Dāmodardarāṣṭakam, we see the two unified together. We see the two unified in an astonishing manner." I began to read that description aloud. As I neared the end of the story, my Srila Gurudev suddenly began weeping. An incessant flow of tears cascaded down his cheeks, and other symptoms of spiritual ecstasy visible in his form. I have only seen such an expression of extraordinary spiritual emotions once or twice in my life. Jai Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Param Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedānta Keshav Goswami Mahārāja ki Jai, Śrī Dāma-bandhana-nibandhanam ki Jai, Śrī Yashoda Devi ki Jai, Śrī Nanda Baba ki Jai, Śrī Kṛṣṇa Kanhaiya ki Jai, Dao Bhaya ki Jai, Śrī Rohini Devi ki Jai, Śrī Sarvavati Gana ki Jai, Śrī Madhukanta Snigdha ki Jai, Śrī Gopāla-campūḥ ki Jai, Jīva Gosvāmipāda ki Jai, Śrī Radha Damodar ki Jai, Raseshwari Shri Vishwabhananand Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki Jai, Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Saparshi Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Ananta Koti Krishna Vrinda ki Jai, Samagora Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Was I not sharing that text the whole time? That's so strange. It says, Rubanjari said, I'm not sure. I wasn't sharing the text. Yeah, I'm very long. Was I not sharing the text for us? Sorry about that. Okay, it was just a couple minutes. Okay. Huh. Right. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. If you would like to get this book, it's available on bhakti.com, or you could get it from the Amazon Kindle store. Also, you can get a free PDF from pūrva.com. I've read everything from here except for the annotations for my Param Gurudev from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So at some point I will read that. I don't know when. I wanted to read it yesterday, but I didn't get the time. But yeah, anyways. Oh, and I keep on announcing this, but I'm just going to mention it again. Tomorrow tomorrow at 7 p.m. India time, I'm going to start a program where I go through the words of Govardhan Vas Prarthanadashakam. I'll try to explain Nijapati Bhujadanda Chatra. I'll try to explain the line and go over the line a few times to help you understand everything that you're singing, and so that over time it will be really easy to memorize the stotram, so that eventually I think it'll take around 20 days, because I want to leave I want to do it every other day. And so then after around 20 days, then hopefully you'll have the stotram memorized or close to being memorized, so that you can easily memorize it on your own, and then you have it with you anytime before you chant your rounds. You can just remember it, be present, be situated in Govardhan by Giriraj, or if you have Giriraj, while you're doing it for Giriraj, while you're cutting up the fruit for Giriraj, or cleaning, or aiding him, or doing anything, then you could be reciting this Giriraj worship. Or so I'll be starting that tomorrow. The WhatsApp group, I will post everything on divineofdevotion.com. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to divineofdevotion.com and you can get the details. And I'll make a WhatsApp group. And once you've memorized any verse from that, then you can share your recitation in the WhatsApp group. All right. Thank you so much for doing it. And I'll see you all tomorrow for reading about Anukut Mahotsav. Dhanavat pranams Mitrandari, and also happy Deepavali to all of you. See you all tomorrow. I might go live this evening, but I don't know yet. Yeah, I'll see. All right, Haribol.